Whoa. Did you touch the microphone? Okay. This is our last panel of the day, called Resources for Culture and Language Diversity in the San Luis Area. The panel moderator is Dr. Min Liu, my colleague and a professor in the Department of Applied Communication Studies at the SIUE. Min will introduce the panel speakers. Thank you.
All right. Well, good afternoon to my fellow panelists. It's quite an honor since I know about the work that your organizations do, and I know how impactful they are in the different sectors in St. Louis. Just as a little background, I am semi-affiliated with the International Studies program. I've had the honor of advising a couple of the students, and I know they do great work. I also should add that outside of my work at SIUE, I also am active in the St. Louis International Asian American community. So as I introduce my fellow panelists, I also want to say that I admire their work because I understand what it takes to be active in providing services, whether it's welcoming new immigrants to St. Louis or providing language assistance programs or advocating to resources and needs of those specific immigrant communities. And I myself do also run a nonprofit called Asian American Civic Scholars, and we primarily work in youth development for Asian Americans. So I was going to say that because this is also meant to be a network community, if we could actually, when you're introducing your organizations, if you don't mind, shouting out your social media handle so that people who are watching our video can eventually learn how to find you and they can follow you and join you. Students nowadays actually do that a lot, so if they can follow you and find you, they can be educated. I know that on our flyer we can actually find the social media handle for the International Student Studies program, which is SIUE INTS. So you can find that program in Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'll go ahead and say that you can follow my youth organization at Civic Asian. And I was going to go to, first, do you mind if I just introduce ourselves and our organizations real quick? Jennifer, do you mind starting off? Tell us about your little bit about your personal background, but more importantly, the organization that you represent.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Tang. I'm from Taiwan. My current role is a enrollment director at a public charter school in San Luis City, but we're not a new school. Every time when I talk about our school, people are like, "Oh, I didn't know there's a public school that do language immersion in San Luis City." So we were founded in 2009. This is our 16th year. We are a pre-K 4 years old to 8th grade school for any family that live in San Luis City. So it doesn't matter your zip code. As long as you live in San Luis City, you can attend our school for free. There is no tuition at all. And we also provide free transportation to and from school every single day because we truly believe that we want to do all of our best to remove barriers for education for the San Luis City students. And I came to San Luis 8 years ago, so this is my 7th year at this current role, and I just love it. My biggest passion is that for me, English is my second language. My mother language is Chinese, so I definitely believe the power of having that second language skill, and definitely open a door for me. So I wanted to bring that resources and opportunities to San Luis City.
Thank you, Jennifer. And since our panel is Resources for Culture and Language Diversity in the St. Louis metro area, I just want to ask a follow-up. What are the languages that are available in your school for these families and their kids?
Yes, so we provide 3 language programs, Chinese, French, and Spanish. We originally started with Spanish and French program first, and then we opened Chinese at a later on year. So when you enroll to our school, you can pick any language that you want. Entry point is pre-K, kindergarten, and first grades. And then our students will learn spend half of the day in that language of your choice, and the other half in English.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to welcome Kelly Moore. And Kelly, do you mind telling us a little about you personally, but also the program, the organization that you represent?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Kelly Moore. I'm the director of the International Institute's Community Engagement Team. I am a born and raised St. Louisan. I went to school in Peoria, Illinois, and received an international studies degree, plus French. Then I went into the Peace Corps in Mali, West Africa, and I came home and applied to the International Institute and got the job. And I've been there ever since. So at the International Institute of St. Louis, we are a welcoming center for immigrants and refugees. We like to use the term New Americans as an inclusive way to talk about the people we serve. We have many, many, many services, including housing, education, English classes, social well-being, mental health, entrepreneurship programs, and of course our huge Festival of Nations every summer. We've been doing the festival for at least 25 years. The agency is over 100 years old, doing cultural programming for the last 100 years. And our social media is, you can find us on Facebook. You can find the International Institute at www.iistl.org. I'm also on Facebook, even though I think the college kids these days don't use Facebook. I'm also personally on LinkedIn as well. So any other social media forums? Are there any others? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's tons. I'm not on TikTok. But yeah, just type in International Institute and you will find us.
And I think it's wonderful, especially for those students interested in international studies or this kind of work, if they can get an internship at your organization, I think that would be amazing.
I failed to mention that I know 2 graduates of this university who have worked at, one is currently working at the International Institute, and another one started her career at the Institute with the AmeriCorps program, and she has since left the Institute, but she worked with us for 5 years. So, yes, we like interns, we take lots of them. Come visit our website.
Thank you, Kelly. And last but not least, I have Mr. Hanko. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and the organization or organizations that you represent.
Sure, Hanko here. It's always a pleasure, honor to be here because I've been here every year for the last several years, and it's always a pleasure. And I see all those familiar faces, Soren and Min Lu. And, I know International Institute pretty well since Anna Crossland. She's my friend. Anyway, my background, first of all, as you can tell, I lived here long enough. I lived in St. Louis about 40 years, 4 decades. So I feel like I was born here, but I wasn't. And as you can tell, I'm international background. I'm originally from South Korea. I was born there, raised, and immigrated when I was young. So I ended up in St. Louis, which I love now. So I've been here long enough to understand Midwest and St. Louis and Southern Illinois culture, and love to communicate with students and faculties here in SIU every year. So what I do is I am an investor, okay? But not just money-wise, community services as well. That's how I look at it, okay? So profit and non-profit. So for profit, I have a company called USACO Group. It's an international investment company. So I have offices from Los Angeles, Dallas, St. Louis, and then also all the way to South Korea. So I go there every other month. So I keep myself up to date in what's going on in international affairs. So not just South Korea, but I was, this year alone, just to give you my background, since January I've been to 5 countries and 8 different international conferences. So I understand the value and the importance of having a multicultural and then also language expertise and experience, especially for the students to be successful in their career in the future. And also my, community service background. I'm a commissioner in economic development space. So I try to help out our regional community to grow in economy, and then also based on the diversity actually. That's very important, especially St. Louis. We are losing population in the long term, so we try to reverse that trend, So we'll try to reverse that process, reverse the trend, so that we are working hard at it. So this topic every time when we have a meeting. also serve on the board of Chamber of Commerce, a few different chambers, including Asian American Chamber of Commerce, and then also there's an organization called District Export Council. It's organized by U.S. Department of Commerce. The Secretary of the Department of Commerce actually appointed these positions. I'm one of them. So I help out our region to be successful to selling export. But when you do export, we count, this is very important because when you do export, any student coming into our region, we consider it as export. For example, a foreign student coming from, say, Romania, we consider successful export, okay? And foreign student coming to, yeah, welcome, have a seat. I just say hello to a gentleman walked in. So any students from, say, Romania come to SIUE, consider it a successful export, okay? So it's very important to have international diversity in all that. And then also, I serve on the board of a few different organizations in economic development, so that is my background. And later on, I prepared, Soren told me I need to have a little speech every year, so I have a PowerPoint. I'll tell you more about it, okay? Thank you, nice to meet you.
Sounds good, sounds good. I think that's a nice segue. If we have a more formal prepared presentation, I think that now would be a great time to get to that part. How do you want to, because we do that with yours first? Yeah.
Well, maybe you should give the others a chance to speak, because Han usually does a thorough presentation that takes a lot of time.
Four PowerPoints this year.
Okay, how many slides do you have?
I got four slides.
4 slides? Okay, I retract what I said.
You gave me 5 minutes.
I retract
Last
what
year
I
we
said.
gave me 20 minutes. That's why it's longer.
I retract what I said.
Thank you.
About the 3/4 of his minutes.
Alrighty. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it's always a pleasure to be here every year. And I'm gonna move my computer here so I could.
Move my computer out of the way.
I'm gonna.
Han has been a very good friend and collaborator of our program.
Oh yeah, Soren has been a great. Oops, sorry. I thought this was a power jet for a second. And
It moves.
what happened? Did I do something? I'm gonna fix this because Jennifer gonna need this too soon, right?
Well, while we wait for the technology to come back alive, I thought one thing that was really interesting when both you, oh, there you go. I'll hold that thought.
Yep. Already? Oh, it takes a minute to load. Got it. All right, anyway, so, it's a part of it. It's an Asian background. So I live in USA for more than 4 years. So again, like you said, for those students who are probably watching us, hopefully in the video on YouTube, whatever, it's important to maintain interest and then also desire to learn other languages and cultures. It's very important. I was at, like I said, I was in several different countries earlier this year, and it's a global conference. It's a Consumer Electronics Show, CES, Las Vegas. 200,000 people coming from all over the world. Now, if you don't have understanding or interest in other cultures and language and their background, it guaranteed failure to your business and career development. Let me put it that way. Okay, so I've been going to CES every year, and I see it, and the trend is more escalated. And then also MWC, Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, Spain, same thing. 150,000 people coming all over the world, same thing. So I want to stress this to the students. I think I don't need to go into details, except that I forgot to tell you that I'm a presidential advisory board to South Korean government. So I have a close tap with my home country, which is South Korea, and then also including student development and also helping out the connections. And now also investor in commercial real estate as well, including Gateway South project in the St. Louis area. And also I'm serving as a faculty in university here, and then along with that I serve on board different organizations. And of my company, well, yeah, it is a little important to know because sometimes every year when I come, students reach out to me, hey, can you help me on this? So I usually tell them, Iseco Group is a global investment company. Founded about 30 years ago in USA, now we have office in South Korea, and we work with multiple markets, not just South Korea, European. We just signed an investment agreement with another European company about a month ago, and another Japanese company about 2 months ago. So, yeah. And we have partnership with multiple South Korean government organizations as well as universities. So we're not just working with U.S. market. And resources. Without knowing all the details, I put a few together. International Institute of St. Louis, of course, on the top. Like I said, I've known International Institute for decades since Anna Crossman founded, and I have a tremendous respect for them. And of course, actually I have to misspell it. It's the WTC. I don't know why I call it WWT because I just spoke about it. It's a World Trade Center. It's another resource, and there are a lot of multiple ethnic chambers. I mentioned that there's a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I think you earlier session mentioned that, and then also African Chamber, Asian American Chamber, along with the every culture has its own chamber, so you can actually look at that as a resource. Also, Ethnic Language Institute. Min Lu knows better Chinese language, and there's a Korean language school. So there are multiple of them you can actually look up to learn. And the other resources, of course, international studies like your program, Dr. Nastasia's program, and then exchange programs, of course. Actually, like I said, it's the trend is the globalization trend, and regardless of what's going on in the world right now, the globalization price is real because, for example, I was on the way to Barcelona, Spain. Half of the plane was filled by U.S. students going to Barcelona for exchange program. And on the way back, half of the plane was a Spanish student coming to the USA for exchange program. I was really surprised. So, and then also language education, multiple programs were mentioned. And I think your faculty can tell you more about it. And then also, I recommend an international conference and starting a program like this one. So you should come to these programs a little bit more, so you can actually have you can motivate yourself more. Because if you don't know, you're not going to be motivated. Well, anyway, that's it. Any questions? I'll take that, and then I'll turn the floor to the next person.
What if he just walks us through the PowerPoint?
Sure, I can do that. That's...
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I can kind of talk a bit more about our school. So I really want to show the slide. This slide has tons of information, but the slide that's normally I would use for more family perspective. So we talked about our mission, value, and purpose. I can definitely start with that because I think that's really, really important.
Oh, I see. Sure. It's not working. Oh, sure.
I don't know why I plugged it in, but it's not showing.
Oh, sure. Okay, let me try that.
Oh, that is my.
Yeah, it's just not showing, so we are connected to her laptop, but it's just not showing the right screen.
So what I did was,
Oh.
So
yeah.
you have a Mac. You might not be-
Sometimes no.
Nobody can defeat technology.
Sometimes
It doesn't
you're looking
matter
at the
if you
screen
are-
back
You're
there,
right.
so
But it's a Mac that makes speaker. We have to call.
Actually,
I
really good on this
Look at that.
launch, I think is what it was, and even the astronauts struggled with Bluetooth, like,
Right.
they
you don't
can't
have
be
that
all
18
set.
try to
I think what we need is the connector, and we don't have it, so.
Usually that
We
should
have to
work.
do
Yeah, it should work.
Yeah, normally that should work.
right away. Just disconnect it, try maybe.
I think it is connected to mine.
Can you email him your presentation?
Actually, I don't need any connections. I just use it directly.
I think
You're,
we continue on.
Yeah,
So
that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just use your imagination.
Yes.
Yeah, so, but if anybody really wants to know more about our school, I'm more than happy to share the slides. So our mission, I can start with that. Our mission is what we do and who we do it for. So we, as we call ourselves on First List, it's short for St. Louis Language Immersion School. We provide a bilingual, culturally responsive, transformational education that enriches the children of St. Louis City. And the purpose is why we do it and reason for being, is to dismantle system oppression by creating a just, equitable, inclusive school in St. Louis community and the world. And then some of our values is kind of drive our everyday behaviors as this. It's provided accessible and rigorous bilingual education, listen to engage all voices, and commit to equity, anti-racism, and cultural competency, and reflect on and respond to data throughout the school community, and we also celebrate mission moments, both big and small. I'll move it kind of fast. So currently at our school, we located right next to a new soccer stadium downtown, right across from the police headquarters. We used to be at 2 different locations, and before COVID, we bought our current building, and we were able to combine all of the programs under one roof. So now our school serves about 520 students across from pre-K to 8th grades. And our students come from every St. Louis city zip codes, and our current demographic is about, I can share that because we always proud to say that a lot of schools, they said that they'll share with everybody that they're diverse by design, but we don't do that. We're diverse by nature. And our demographics are about 71.5% of our students are Black, 5.3% of students are white, Hispanic we're about 10.6% students, and then multiracial is about 12.6%. And we are very, very proud of that. And our population right now is about 83% of our family qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that means they come from a lower income household family. So at our school, we are a CEP school too. So what that means in short is that we provide free breakfast and free lunch to all of our students. Doesn't matter if you qualify for free or reduced lunch or not. And our staff, so our staff speak about, we currently have about 60 staff in total. And they speak a total of 15 different home countries, from 20 different home countries, and speak a total of 15 different languages, and have an average of 10.4 years of teaching experiences, and about 50% of them have a master's degree or above. And 80% identify as female, and 19 identify as male. And so we are really proud every time we share about our staff demographic. So any of the students from your program that you eventually wanted to become a teacher, and you want to specifically focus on language learning or language teaching, I think our school is a very unique situation that where you can find the family that they don't speak a language at all, but you're able to share your own culture and language with them. So at our school, we use a model called Gomez and Gomez dual language model. So what that means is that it's depending on your program. For example, in the Chinese program, your students will be learning Chinese language arts and math using Chinese. And the other half will be science, social study, and then English using English. So that balance of 50% of your daily instructional minutes. And currently we offer French, Spanish, and Chinese. And our most popular program is Spanish, and then Chinese, and the French. And so let me see. So we just opened up our own pre-K program 2 years ago. And it's about 20 students in each classrooms. And teacher to students ratio at our school, it's about 1 teacher to about 20 kids. And another interesting fact to share is that we also recruit international interns every year directly from other countries. So I used to be an intern 9 years ago from Taiwan to our school. I was a teaching assistant at that time. So that's how we kind of bring different perspective from other countries come to our school to serve our students. And like I mentioned, we are a public charter school, and so we recruit every family in the city. So there are some services we provide that include daily bus transportation to and from school every single day, and a free breakfast and lunch, and then before and after school period. And yeah, that's kind of main background of our school. So if anybody is interested in coming to our school, want to take a tour or want to do an internship, I know we have that opportunity before that we partner with different university. We have students from SLU before, in the Washington University before, that they came here for 1 month and then do internship at our school. Yeah, all right, thank you very much.
I love this discussion because earlier we were listening to a panel talking about the importance of learning a foreign language in the higher education setting. And of course, from Jennifer, we learned about a program that's right here in St. Louis where kids as young as what?
4 years old.
4 years old can already be in an immersive language learning experience. And I cannot emphasize how important that is. And it makes me proud of being in St. Louis. You know, of course, then we have programs like yours, Kelly, International Institute. Your programming is supporting, I think, primarily adults, but I could be wrong. So actually, I was going to ask you next, bringing back the focus of culture and language diversity, but also serving the needs of newer groups of new Americans. Can you maybe highlight a couple of the programs that you are particularly, proud of or wish that people know more about?
Yes, thank you. So, thank you for that question. I love it. As I mentioned, the International Institute is a welcoming center for new Americans where we help individuals in our region become thriving, sustaining members of society. 2 or 3 programs that I'm particularly proud of and that are fairly new at the International Institute are, one, last January, we launched a food pantry. And I was very involved in this program. I did a lot of the legwork. We have a really great partner in Operation Food Search and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those are our 2 largest partners who donate food for our pantry. The pantry is open to anyone, but we do serve about 98% of our clientele are new Americans. And this is really important because food is such a basic need, and it's also a very cultural need. So in food pantries around our agency, there are actually quite a few food pantries, but they don't always have culturally appropriate foods. And so they have very typical American foods. So that was really important when we decided to have this program, because we didn't want to just add to the list of places where people can go. As we all know too, it can be a stereotype that people don't want to admit that they have a food insecurity. And so we also took that into consideration. Some of our new Americans don't want to go to churches maybe, or don't feel comfortable going to a food pantry where maybe English is not spoken, or English is the only language spoken. So that comfortability is also really important, serving individuals with limited English skills. So that I'm so excited for, and unfortunately in our current day, our federal administration just put in a policy that does not allow some new Americans to access food stamps. So we anticipate the need of that program growing. We serve about 1,000 people a month in that capacity. Another program that I'm really proud of that is also pretty new in the region is both our Afghan Support Center and our Move to STL program. Both of those programs are geared towards bringing new Americans from other parts of the country to St. Louis. Our panelists here mentioned that St. Louis population is declining, and we believe, and many others believe, that immigrants are one way to increase our population. If we can convince some of our foreign-born students who are studying at our universities to stay here, if we can convince other foreign-born individuals who are living in a more expensive region of the land to come here, then we will hopefully do that. So we are bringing people in, we're targeting cities that have high unemployment rates and high living costs. So then we're trying to convince them that they should come to St. Louis. We have better opportunities here in Illinois. We also have better costs of living. So that's really a great program that is really looking at our national questions of populations and cities and growing regions. And then another program that many St. Louisans don't even know about would be our International Institute Community Development Corporation. And that is a long word for helping new Americans open up their businesses. So our panelists here probably knows more than I do about economic stability, but it is noted that new Americans are more likely to open up businesses than born Americans. And so if you look at our demographics in the last 10 years, this development corporation has helped over 200 businesses open in the region, with the top 3 industries including transportation, restaurant, and retail. So you can imagine, going back to food is the easiest connector of culture, right? We have tons of opportunities to taste new food, to buy new food, to share food with each other. So that's my plug to going out to a restaurant and just ordering something that you're not allergic to, or that you don't know what it is. I mean, if you're allergic to things, you probably want to know what's in the food. But you should go to restaurants and try things that you never heard of, because that's a very easy way to experience culture and to share in a memory with friends and family. I do have a few other points I want to just mention real quickly to the students. So what I find, I've done a lot of different work with cultural intelligence, cultural sharing, and I think my first advice would be to always be curious. You know, when you're interacting with other individuals, have the mindset of curiosity and also have the mindset of finding similarities instead of differences. That's a really generous and polite way to meet people, and it also is a very inclusive way of talking to each other. I already mentioned food, but if you really aren't an adventurous eater, then think about your own culture. Think about where your grandparents came from, where your great-grandparents came from, and explore that culture of food. And then after you've mastered that, then go on to other cultures that you have very little interaction with. In the region of St. Louis, there are over 9 or 10 ethnic grocery stores. So if you don't want to spend money on a restaurant, go to a grocery store and just buy one item for $1. I bet you it will change your life. I love going to international grocery stores, and when I travel around the world, that's my favorite thing to do, is go into grocery stores, because they're the most unique and normal opportunity to do in a country. Then 3 more things. Attend festivals. St. Louis and the region, even Southern Illinois, we have a very rich culture of immigrants here. It's just we have to go out and find them. So there was a book, some of the resources you can go to. There's a book called Ethnic St. Louis that was written by an African American, a woman, and a scholar in the Bosnian world. That book shares all the different ethnic festivals, and we're full of them. I mean, festival season is around the corner. It starts in the spring, it usually ends in the fall. You could go to a festival every weekend from now until fall. And they're mostly free. So do that. Of course, I mentioned our website. Please go to visit our website. fingers crossed, in the next couple months, we will have an events calendar. I know we're in the 20th century, but we've been slow to have an events calendar, but we're hoping that this will be a community events calendar, and so different chambers, different organizations can send us a post, and then we will be able to post it. And then lastly, in the region, we have an organization called the Mosaic Project, based out of the World Trade Center, and that project is really trying to also bring new Americans to St. Louis, helping the region grow, helping us become prosperous. They do wonderful programming. They do virtual presentations. They also do in-person presentations, and they do lots of great things. They do have a calendar on their website, so if you want to look there, that's a great place to look. So last but not least, more immediate action items. The International Institute is having a Race for Refugees, April 18th. That is in about a week, 7 days. And this is a really fun, engaging way to be around international people. We have a partner of ours that's going to be measuring children ages 4 through 18 for free shoes, tennis shoes. That's in partnership with Reebok. And also, in this current climate that we're living in, it's really important to show each other that we care about immigrants and refugees, and that that we have supporters. Last year during this race, it rained the entire time, and it was pouring the whole day. But there were like 400 of us there, and people were smiling the whole time. It didn't matter that the rain was there; it mattered that the people were there. And so that's coming up. You can also purchase a ticket for a refugee child if you want, if you can't make it. It's a fun walk, so it's a fun run. Please be there. Festival of Nations has been happening for 20 plus years in Tower Grove Park. This is a 2-day multicultural festival. We really depend on students for volunteer opportunities. We love groups of volunteers. Maybe your company wants to volunteer this year.
We did every year.
They do every year. You can get your students or 8th graders to do some service work. We're trying to get as many groups as possible to be there. It takes a full day to set up, and it also takes a full day to clean up. So the Monday and the Friday before the festival, we need a lot of helpers, and during the festival. And then last but not least, I think out of all 4 of us here, it's really, really important that, and this is the easiest way you can get involved, tell someone else about one of our programs. We have 3 amazing people up here with very different audiences, and basically Soren's covered it all. We've got the youth, we've got the economic business world, and then we have social services. So if there's anything that you're passionate about, if it's one of those 3, you automatically have a connection. So reach out, stay curious, and take action.
Love it. I should say the Race for Refugees is the only program that has ever gotten me to run at all. So I look forward to doing it again this year. I love it. I think it's really amazing that you're talking about festivals. I should also plug in. I have been involved in planning the Chinese Culture Days Festival in the Botanical Garden, and that's the longest running festival of its kind, of its size in the Midwest, so we beat anything that Chicago would have to offer. So I'm very proud of St. Louis stories like that, and I'm really excited that Jennifer's school and some of your students will be joining. So that brings me to the next kind of observation. I would like to remind everyone that we obviously exist in this huge ecosystem that kind of, like you said, educational, social services, advocacy. We haven't talked much about advocacy yet, whether it's legal or policy. Immigrants don't always engage a lot in those, especially newer immigrants, but nonetheless, we exist in an ecosystem. And I'd love to hear more about any collaborations, any referral programs or partnership that you've found to be helpful, or that you would, I'll start off. So in my work with Asian American youth mental health, very quickly I became aware of service providers that, like for instance, they used to be called the Bias, but now is the Monarch. They're very good at providing mental health programming for immigrant services. I have yet to connect with the people in your office, but I know that you guys do that as well. I've gotten to partner with specific Asian organizations that I know to also have a soft spot for mental health, knowing that that is not always an area of interest for a lot of immigrant organizations. And I think it's really important that we seek each other out. So that's a question for all three of you. What are some partnerships that you've found to be helpful in your work? I think it's important because, like, say if we're in New York City, usually those areas are so huge that you oftentimes find people competing for resources. Here in St. Louis, I feel like we're pretty healthy in the sense that we seek each other out to prop each other up instead of bring each other down, which I've heard in some other bigger cities. So with that, can you talk a little bit more about your experience partnering with other organizations or developing programming together?
So I'll take that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, all of you, but yes, please.
Sure. So the way I can tell you, because I'm a commissioner in the area, so we actually work with the city, county, all different levels, state levels. Like you were just told, we have a multiple layers of services systems. Also, I would call it kind of fragmented organizations, okay, around the region. So one thing as a community service we're trying to do is that we're trying to encourage those organizations and entities to work together because there are limited resources, as you know. The resources allocated to every region in the country is getting smaller and smaller. So especially for DEI space, so it is important to work together and trying to maximize the benefit of the resource. So there is a big initiative going on, and the one thing I would also like to share with you is that the diversity, multicultural, multi-language is a very important part of our community. I think Kelly and I mentioned that about the population. Hopefully we'll talk population growth problem in the future, but population, because like I said, I have 44 decades of my life in St. Louis and the southern Illinois area has taught me that having those young blood, I call it young, because they're from different area. I'm not talking about the age. It's important because they're bring new perspective, and then also they're eager to adapt and learn and improve. So that actually adds a big synergy to the community. So if you go into a certain area, you'll see a lot of Bosnian restaurant. Okay, otherwise you will not see it. I think me and Kelly mentioned about the programs they had involved in. I'll tell you one of mine. In the District Electoral Council, we are part of SLURP, St. Louis International Business Community. We do an annual gala dinner. It's in May, and you can actually look it up. You can actually find me on the LinkedIn. There'll be a post to it. So that specific program, we take turns on different ethnic background restaurants. Okay, this year happened to be Bosnia, and then we also have a lot of Vietnamese population came in. So they're also a bigger community pillar. Not to mention. Not to forget the Chinese and Indian and Koreans and all other, and Romanian as well. So that is a big community element that we need to be successful. Okay. Thank you.
I would just add a few other ways that community is engaging together. The first one is the International Service Providers Network, or I'm sorry, Immigrant.
Yeah.
Immigrant Service Providers Network. This is a group of individuals and organizations that meet on a monthly basis. where we have mini trainings, where we introduce each other, where we get to know programs and services that are being offered throughout the region. And this is my biggest way to collaborate with all of us. And so this is a really great resource. Anybody can join. It's a membership organization. They have individual members or organizational members. It's a really great organization. The other thing that we do, excuse me, I think it's really important. We heard that we have different international chambers or like chambers of commerce, and those chambers all have different policies that they're advocating for, and so we at the International Institute try to promote those chambers around the community. So I think a few months ago there was a Hispanic Day at the Capitol.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they were able to find 2 different busfuls of people who went to be supporters of that day. So anytime there's a Capitol Day or there's a way to advocate for one of our chambers, thank you, missions, then we all band together and we support each other. So that's the power of people, right? Like, and it can be anybody who can support those advocacy efforts. Last but not least is that we have to always be mindful of language accessibility. So the International Institute has spent many years working with many partners trying to encourage leaders in the community to remember that language access is so important and that you can't just pick 2 languages to give an alert to. You should really try to choose more than 2 or 3, even if we have to use artificial intelligence and even if it isn't maybe the most culturally appropriate translation, emergency information needs to get out there. So I just had a meeting with the National Weather Service, and their website actually comes in 12 different languages. But how many people know that, right? So how we have to get the word out, we have to say, and especially here in St. Louis where we have tornadoes and floods, those are the 2 biggest natural disasters. It's so important that people know that they can have a resource to look to see what's happening. So language accessibility is very, very important. And then last but not least, I know I said that, but I'll just say it real quickly. The Food Coalition, this is a new group that started within the last year, and it is a group of food pantry leaders who are coming together, and we're sharing food amongst each other. And the one example I will use is that the federal government passes out lentils, dried lentils, and many Americans do not eat them. And so we have multiple pantries that are calling us asking if we want lentils, and we say yes, but we have so many lentils. We told our families they can take as many bags of lentils as they want.
That's awesome.
And so that's another way of, that coalition is working with each other to really find out where unused food can go. And that's kind of through just the collaboration efforts that we're doing. So, if you have any good recipes for lentils, I'm looking for more. I mean, I love lentil soup, but I know there's more you can do with lentils. I just don't know enough about lentils.
I was going to say lentil soup too. I love lentil soup. So for our school, for resources and community engagement partnership, since our target audience is very specific, it's for family-wise with the age that looking for elementary or early childhood or middle school, we often partner a lot with daycare, so preschool. And for us, we specifically target preschool that has the Head Start program. So that would be family who have lower income. So we want to provide the support to those families. Because when you think about, normally when people think about language learning, they think about that something that provide at a private school setting only. But no, it actually says in St. Louis City that you don't have to pay a single dollar to learn a second language. So we partner a lot with daycares, preschools, or we used to partner with. We attended the international the festivals a lot, but not for the past 2 years. But the year before that, we always have a table there as a nonprofit to try to meet the community. And I remember we also held with one of the family, the refugee family at another institute. They only speak Spanish. So I worked with a lady there that they sent the family to our school and to find placements for second grade, third grade, and middle school, I believe. And since a lot of our populations that are looking into our school, they only speak Spanish. So we always provide language supports, for example, translations in applications or websites. We always have, our front desk lady is a Spanish speaker, so we always have that pieces for family for accessibilities. And we also partner with Targo Park. We wanted to be out and about just to increase our visibilities. So we, not every week, but sometimes we do have a table at the Targo Park just to meet the community. We also partner with like the Chinese Culture Day that Dr. Liu mentioned. It's not really about attending an event to recruit family, that you have to go to our school, otherwise we're not being here. No, it's more about showing that resources pieces to the community, saying that, hey, there's a school here, do you want to take a look that your child might be able to pick a language, for free. That's that part. And one thing that Dr. Liu mentioned, that sometimes we're not competing over resources, actually we're collaborating over resources. So what I've been seeing is that when I go to, for example, kindergarten transitioning fair, we have a room like this big, but we have table for representing each charter schools or each public schools, but we're not competing each other. We're there to help families to find a school that actually fits them. So they probably stop at our table and realize that, oh, my kid's actually not ready to a language part. Then we'll direct the family, hey, probably can check out that charter school who has more different characteristics, probably doing more hands-on learning. Our school, the unique piece is doing the language pieces, but you're looking for more like hands-on learning, go check out that school. So that's something that we are proud of, to offer that help to the family to find a school rather than competing each other over resources.
That's awesome. Well, at any time, if anyone else wants to add to the question, please just raise your hand. I was going to actually say that I'm really grateful that my colleague Soren decided to actually have a segment that focuses on St. Louis, because I think St. Louis has a lot of great opportunities for students in Southern Illinois to actually benefit from and to contribute to. So I want to talk a little bit. This is something that I remember being told when I first, realized I was coming to live in St. Louis and maybe work in the area. That St. Louis is such a black and white town. And of course that has historical reality and it has real life implications still for today. But that certainly creates a reality that oftentimes newer Americans don't exactly see themselves fit neatly into, in that narrative of the black and white kind of binary, right? I just always, when we talk about income inequality and you Google Delma and people, talk about Delma Loop and Delma Divide, right? Whereas for me, Delma is the street where I go and get my favorite boba and go eat corner 17, right? So what do you think are still centering on this conversation about advocating for cultural and language resources so that we can have a more diverse St. Louis or diverse Metro St. Louis? How do you think we should navigate in that kind of continued, I think it's still a pretty strong narrative, that, this is a black and white city, region, I don't necessarily know my answer to that question.
That's a very good question, and I think it's trying to let go of your subconscious bias and realizing that this entire region was founded upon New Americans, plus the indigenous people, right? So the region has always had an influx of people. The Chinese go back to one of the beginners,
1857.
One of the earliest groups of people who have come here. So we want to try to encourage others, new Americans, new visitors, new people to the region that even though in the national news we might be a black and white region, we have much more to offer, and we have so much history with so many different groups of people coming here. I myself, my family's from the Belleville region, that used to be where the Germans settled and the farming industry, exploded. So I know little pockets of this, but like, we really all need to celebrate each other. And as you mentioned, Del Mar, we have probably 10 or maybe even 20 regions in our own region that celebrate ethnicities. We've got Cherokee Street, we've got, so many more other, the Hill, which used to kind of honor our Italian heritage. Cahokia Mounds honors our indigenous area. Like, you just have to get out and find it, right? You really have to get out and be like, this region is amazing, let's go find it.
Yeah. Thank you.
That and dispel the myth, right? I mean, it's not a myth, but it sort of is.
Yeah, it still has, still comes up as a soundbite for sure.
Yeah.
So I look at it this way: diversity is actually is strength what we have. If we lose that, I mean, as we know, USA based on immigration, right? So I happen to come from Asian background, South Korean background. South Korea has a very interesting trend as I watched last several decades. And like I said, I live here, but I go back and forth at least every other month. I go there, 6-7 times a year. And I travel all over the world for my businesses and other reasons. And one thing I see, I'll give you an example. I don't have to give you an example of US. I'll give you a South Korean example. South Korea has been I don't want to call it isolated, but they didn't have much choice. But number one, back about 3-4 decades ago, the economy is smaller, and people just didn't have an opportunity to learn and live. Now, if you, let me ask you this, how many of you been to South Korea? None. Okay. Two. Okay, good. Yeah, okay, good.
Jennifer has
Yeah, I kind of figured that Min and
I bet
Jennifer probably been there.
Han, I will challenge you. I know more about K-pop than you do.
Yeah, that one I agree. That's all. And about for the when you look at the, especially like when you walk in Seoul, I was there about a month ago. When you walk in the middle of downtown, just like you feel like you walk in the middle of Manhattan. In New York City, when you walk in the middle of it, you will see the those Fifth Avenue or things like that. Half of them are tourists, more than half. South Korea, Seoul especially, the exact same way. So the way I see it is that South Korean economy and the culture has been grown in a positive way because they have learned to embrace diversity. Okay, because I actually saw this because I'm a South Korean person, I'm bilingual, bicultural person. So I know how isolated they were. It affected them negatively, but now it's actually their economy is getting better because they embrace diversity. And then also their people, especially young generation, are very open-minded. So they're happy and they're prosper, not just economically, culturally, and then also they learn to respect other cultures, countries, people, and the language. So it is good to see that the diversity builds a good foundation for a nation and a community and society to move forward in a positive direction. So that's what I personally saw in South Korea example. And I think the US, we led that example long before because 250 years ago we built this country. Well, I didn't because I'm immigrant. I guess I made a contribution that I pay my taxes, so I could do that, I could say. But I guess our forefathers have built this country. They exactly had the idea, and I saw the same thing happen in South Korea because I've seen that the history of it, and then especially the last about few decades, and it is a good thing to see that, and it's a good example to share with other people. Okay, thank you.
I would add on that for Dr. Liu mentioned Del Mar. I remember when I just came to St. Louis, there were so many people that from St. Louis told me, "Oh, don't go to Del Mar. Del Mar is so dangerous." don't go across the other side of King's Highway. I couldn't live in the city. So when I was just came to St. Louis, I'm so new to St. Louis. I don't know anything about St. Louis history or the different immigrants community that within St. Louis City. All I know is that people say, don't go there because it's so dangerous. But when I actually went there is so much diversity and cultures on Del Mar Loop. You get different restaurants or foods that come from